As I recall, it was 2005 when we had discussions with the government of Japan on the realignment of our forces and the bases in Okinawa, among other facilities that we were discussing with Japan. And the discussions took into account the concerns and the interests of the politicians of Okinawa. I always felt that I had a sense that the people of Okinawa had a very good relationship with our military. But the politicians raised issues frequently about our military. We insisted that the government of Japan guarantee that that they could deliver on the agreement that we worked out, and that they could fulfill it on time once the agreements were reached, and we had lengthy discussions. We did not want to be placed, the United States government did not want to be placed in between the government or the people of Okinawa and the central government in Tokyo. The understanding was that the central government would be able to work out with the government of Okinawa any issues and be able to deliver on whatever was agreed on. That was where we were. The agreements we had were developed in response to several priority matters for Okinawa. All of them were important to Okinawa, and the government of Japan and the government of the United States discussed those three things. One was the return of Fukushima Air Base to control of the Okinawa government, and the return of a maximum amount of land area in the southern area of Okinawa. Second was the some reduction of the number of U.S. Marines assigned to Okinawa, and that those things were to be accomplished with no great degradation to our ability to honor our defense treaty with the government of Japan. And the agreements that were reached in 2005 did that. They proposed to return Fukushima and almost all the land in the southern area. It reduced the Marines from something like 18,000 Marines assigned there down to 10,000. And both the government of Japan and the government of the United States agreed that it did not degrade our deterrent capability. In my view, Okinawa had the arrangement between the government of Japan and the government of the United States fulfilled Okinawa's concerns, and in fact probably exceeded the original deal structure that was suggested by the government of Japan. Okay. And the United States to this day stands by the agreement, and it's been, what, 5 years?
Right.
That's a long time. And if there are issues, there are clearly not issues between the government of Okinawa and the government of the United States. There are issues between the government of Japan and the government of Okinawa.
That's very true. Yes. So my question is, you have done so many things like, after the Cold War, you just work on global defense posture review and reduce the number of bases across America, and no previous U.S. administrations done that before you.
Not just within the United States, but around the world, we made enormous adjustments.
Yes, so that you just travel all around the world, and you just, back in 2003, you visited Okinawa, right? So my question is, have you ever considered move the Futenma Air Base outside the country? Like, for instance, Australia?
I can't say what's been considered by other people. I'm not in government, haven't been there for 4 years. I can tell you what we thought then and what we agreed to with the government of Japan, but no, I wouldn't want to even speculate about what anyone's ever thought of along that line.
Okay. So no suggestion made by them back then?
No.
Okay. Okay. So how about moving from Okinawa to within Japan, other parts of Japan?
I'm not going to discuss anything like that.
Okay.
I'm not in the government.
Okay.
I spent a good deal of time on this issue when I was there. We worked out a very careful arrangement with the government of Japan. Anything that anyone wants to talk about that is different from that, it seems to me they should talk about to the people in the government, not me.
Right, so within Japanese government, you say?
Oh, sure, it's
Japanese
issues
government and
between the
Okinawa.
Japanese government and Okinawa. The United States can't negotiate with Okinawa.
That's true, yeah.
They deal with the government of Japan.
So Japanese government should represent what Okinawa wants.
No, the
If
Japanese
there's-
government should do whatever it wants to. We're not going to tell them what they should do. And they did. We sat down for months after months and made an arrangement with the Japanese government. And it's 5 years ago, and it hasn't been fulfilled yet.
So was it a longer process than you expected back then?
Well, the negotiations were typical of negotiations. They take time.
Okay.
But most governments that you deal with end up executing on an agreement like that within a reasonable period of time.
Okay. You know, it's been 15 years. It's going to be 15 years this April 12th since U.S. and Japan agreed to return Phuteng. So it's been 15 years, but nothing really has, moved forward. So what do you have any perspective on that?
No, I tell you, it's not helpful for someone who is not in government, who was in government and worked hard to work out arrangements with the government of Japan, did work out arrangements with the government of Japan.
Okay.
But it's not helpful for someone who's now been out for 4 years to start commenting on that. It's up to the people in the United States Department of Defense and in the government of Japan.
Okay. All right, so can you tell us about when you visit Okinawa in 2003?
What about it?
You visit what was the impression? You had a meeting with the governor?
Yes, he's no longer governor.
No longer, then governor. So in that meeting, he insists to reduce the burden of Okinawa, and that makes you, how does it feel? How did you feel after the meeting?
You know, I've met with politicians all over the world since dating back to the 1950s.
Right, long time.
And I remember that individual asked to meet with me. I agreed to meet with him.
Okay.
And normally when you have a meeting with a person, you have some understanding about how the meeting's going to go. Is the press going to be in? Is it going to be out? You're going to have a press conference afterwards. What are the issues you want to talk about? In that case, that wasn't done that way. When I walked into the meeting, he had invited the press in for the
Oh.
meeting. It was
You didn't know that?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
And he obviously was campaigning. He was
Right.
using his meeting with the United States, not for substantive discussions at all,
I see.
but to give a lecture and have us sit there as props in the room for him. It was unusual.
So there was not an agreement before?
I never would negotiate with him. That wasn't my role. I wasn't the negotiator, and he didn't represent the government of Japan. He was the governor of Okinawa.
That's right.
I was just being courteous to meet with him. But the courtesy was on my side.
Sure. So what, did you fly over the island and you saw the Henoko Bay on the northern part of Okinawa?
I have flown over the island.
Any view?
No, I tell you, I am absolutely not going to inject myself into Japanese politics. This is an issue between the government of Okinawa and the government of Japan. They are the ones that have to sort this out.
Right.
And the United States is not going to get in the middle of that. Second, it is a matter for the people in the United States government, and I am not in the United States government, and I have not been for 4 years. And I am absolutely not going to inject myself into any issues between the United States government and the government of Japan. So on both counts, I am not going to get into it.
I understand. So could you tell me, on this your book, I read your book, I bought it back in January,
Mhm.
I read it, and on this page 303, it said About the military, you said you wanted our military to be only where they were needed, but also where they were wanted, and contention might arise. I question the desirability of trying our forces to massive permanent bases, especially where it created opposition among local populations. Tensions between our military and Okinawa politicians, for example, have been growing for some time.
But not between our military and the people of Okinawa.
No.
The people of Okinawa have been hospitable to our military. They have benefited by the presence of U.S. military, to be sure. And but in any country, there are going to be politicians who try to stir up trouble and make issues, and that's true all across the globe. That I was a politician once, and I understand that. They look for issues they can use to get votes. But no, in terms of I mean, I'm not an expert on it, and I'm certainly out of date by 4 years, but the people of Okinawa had been uniformly very hospitable to our forces. Okay, folks?
Okay. 質問いいですか? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.